Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to show you how to work a tubular cast-on, which is the perfect cast-on for a 1x1 ribbed edge because it creates a very neat edge that allows it to look like your stitches continue right off the edge of your fabric and wrap around the edge and up the other side. So to work this cast on, you're going to need to leave a tail like you would for a long tail cast on, and I'm going to start by working a slip knot and putting that onto my needle. I'm going to keep the tail end of my yarn closer to me and the working end farther away, and hold the yarn as I would for a long tail cast on with my thumb and index finger in between the two strands. You can start this cast on with either a knit stitch or a purl stitch, so check your pattern to know which stitch you're supposed to be working first, and remember to count your slip knot because that will be the first stitch of your work. So if you want to work a knit stitch, we're going to bring the tip of the needle towards you and under the yarn on your thumb, and then over the yarn on your index finger, and under both back up to your starting position. Then to work a purl stitch, we're going to go around and under the yarn on your index finger, over the yarn on your thumb, then back under both, and up back to your starting position. So hopefully you can see here we have this knit stitch and this purl stitch with that purl bump underneath the needle. So let's show that again. To do a knit stitch, we're going to go under the thumb, over the index finger, and back around. And then for the purl, we're going to go under the index finger, over the thumb, and back under and around. Let's do that a few more times. Knit stitch under the thumb, over the index finger, purl stitch under the index finger, over the thumb, and back to your starting position. Again, knit stitch under the thumb, over the index finger, and under and back to the start, purl stitch under the index finger, over the thumb, and back to the start. So you repeat these two steps until you have the number of stitches required for your pattern. Now, when you have gotten the number of stitches you need, you'll want to create a twist in your yarn to keep that last stitch secure. So for the direction of your twist will be different based on whether you finished with a knit or a purl. If you finished with a purl, you can twist counterclockwise. If you finished with a knit, you can twist clockwise, and that will help lock your stitch in place. And once you turn, you're ready to work your next setup row. So I finished this with a purl stitch on the original cast on, which means that we're going to start with a knit stitch here. So on your first setup row, your knit stitches will all be knit through the back loop. So I'm going to knit a stitch through the back loop and then slip the next stitch with yarn in front. And repeat that to the end. So we're going to knit through the back loop and slip one with yarn in front. Knit through the back loop, oops, and slip with yarn in front, knit through the back loop, and slip with yarn in front. Now the reason we're knitting through the back loop is because you'll notice that the stitches are mounted backwards after the way we set up the cast on. So we're trying to reorient those stitches so that they're not twisted after your cast on. So we're going to knit through the back loop, slip with yarn in front, and your final stitch will be your slip knot, which can just be knit normally. So I've completed my first setup row. Now we're going to turn and work the second setup row. Oops, need a little more slack in my yarn. Okay, so we're going to slip that first stitch with yarn in front. And then the next stitch is a knit, but because we corrected the mounting of the stitches in the previous row, we can simply knit our stitches without needing to go through the back loop. I'm going to slip one with yarn in front, knit, 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 and slip one with yarn in front. So we have now worked all of our setup rows, and you can turn and be ready to work starting with a knit stitch and just work in your 1x1 ribbing from here. Now, one tip to help you with this, if you're casting on a large number of stitches, say for a sweater, you may find that as the cast on works down onto the cable of a circular needle, that it will twist around the stitches a little, or around the cable a little bit. And until you are familiar with working a tubular cast on, it may be a little bit confusing how to orient that yarn to keep your stitches straight. So if you are struggling with working your setup rows when your stitches have gone down onto the cable, consider casting on onto a straight needle and then switching to your circular needles for your second row. I hope this helps and gives you the confidence to be able to try this beautiful cast on your next project. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please click like and subscribe below.